Hi guys. Okay, so now we're going to do the second part of the chapter 15 PowerPoint. And so this is on delivery. And we're going to talk a little bit about delivery methods. Some of these will be familiar to you. I kind of skimmed through the last part of this chapter because we've covered some of it already. So types of delivery methods: an impromptu speech, a scripted speech, or an extemporaneous speech. Impromptu is a speech that's delivered with only seconds or minutes of advanced preparation. So it's something you kind of come up with on the spot. A scripted speech is the exact opposite of that. The whole speech is prepared by writing it out in manuscript ahead of time. You read it from a sheet of paper or you have it memorized. And obviously it involves a lot of preparatory work and rehearsal, and it's unlikely to sound natural because you're reading it from a piece of paper. But it can be a good idea in situations in which you really need to make sure the wording is precise and accurate. Extemporaneous speeches are the majority of speeches that people do, and the ones you've been doing in this class. They're researched and planned ahead of time, and you might have outlines or notes, but they're not scripted. You don't write every word out ahead of time. For the informative speech, you're going to be doing something a little closer to a scripted speech, because I do want you to get a little bit of experience with that. But the ones we've done so far have been extemporaneous. So that's all on that part. So now we're going to go into rehearsing, what it is and why it's important. So rehearsing is the iterative process of practicing your speech aloud. Some steps are to prepare your speaking notes, create and handle presentational aids, and then practice rounds. So rounds would be each run through of the speech. So when you're preparing notes, it's a good idea to create a keyword outline of the speech. So to reduce your general outline to just a few keywords here and there that you can jump off of. Speaking notes are very good for hard to remember information, quotes, or delivery cues. And you may want to have more detailed speaking notes for those. For instance, for quotes, you may want to write the whole quote out on a card. If you need to use a presentational aid, you might use delivery cues like point to presentation aid here. So process for creating speaking notes is to start by reducing your outline to keywords and phrases, note anything that needs to be said word for word, and put the main ideas and any quotes or anything that needs to be said word for word on index cards. Some guidelines, these are from the book: 3 3x5-inch index cards for a 3 to 5 minute speech. And in longer speeches, you'll want 1 card for the intro and conclusion and 1 for each minute or so of the body. I don't know why the book put this late in the book. This seems like something that would have been more effective very early. But here's a sample schedule for planning a speech. And this is kind of what I hope you guys have been doing as well. About 8 days before, about a week before, you'll select your topic and begin research. Continue research on the 7th day. Then around the 6th day, you outline the body. 5 and 4 day, you work on the intro and conclusion and the outline and presentational aid. 3 and 2 and 1 days before, you rehearse the speech, and then the day of, you deliver it. So some tips for presentational aids. These I think we went through in a previous PowerPoint, so I'm just going to go through them very quickly. You need to carefully plan when you need to use them, consider audience needs, position aids and equipment before starting the speech, display so that everyone can see or hear them, reference them during the speech, and talk to your audience, not the aid. So don't stare at the presentational aid the whole time. And it's a good idea not to pass objects through the audience, especially in COVID world, because you can get germs on them, you can lose them, they can be broken, and they might be distracting too, because your audience is going to be paying attention to the object in their hand and not you. So rounds are practicing the whole speech ahead of time, and after each round you want to kind of think about what you did and evaluate your word choice, your body language, your use of voice, body, or presentational aids. It can be really helpful to record yourself when you're rehearsing so that you can assess those by watching the video after. So adapting. During a speech, there will often be times where maybe things don't go according to plan and you need to adapt. So while delivering the speech, you want to be aware of and respond to audience feedback. If your audience looks bored, you might want to try something different than you had planned. if they look jittery and like they just really want to move around, or if they're looking at their phones, if you can, that's a good time to suggest a break, things like that. Be prepared with alternative material and examples in case the initial material doesn't work as you expect it to. Maybe something you think is a really good example just seems to confuse the audience, and you need to come up with another one. If you misspeak, if you say something incorrectly, then do correct yourself. This is talking more about saying incorrect information or saying an entirely wrong sentence. If you just stumble over a word, you probably don't want to draw attention to it by correcting yourself. You also want to be able to adapt to unexpected events and reactions and handle questions respectfully. Answer them appropriately and, respectfully. Don't demean your audience. Don't act like the question is stupid, anything like that. So we already talked about this one too, but just kind of as a recap, to adapt to virtual audiences, you want to adapt your audience to adapt your speech to multiple audiences. Choose your presentational aids carefully and make sure that everyone can see or hear them from their respective screens. It's a good idea to learn the tech in advance. So if you're using Teams, kind of play with Teams a little bit ahead of time. Same with Zoom, or this is Screencast-O-Matic. Whatever technology you're using, go ahead and learn a little bit about it before the exact moment of the speech so that you know how to use it. And that'll make you look more confident, and it'll make you less anxious. And then, as always, employ the fundamentals of public speaking. That would be the end of the Chapter 15 presentation. In a few minutes, I'll go ahead and I'll get the informative / Chapter 16 one up, and then there'll be 2 more next week as well.